Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
All right, right away. Welcome to the Side Action, episode 30 of season 5. My name is Jim Weglars, a.k.a. Wegs. You can follow me at WegsPool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And this is Steve Roberts, a.k.a. Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter and Side Action Podcast on Instagram. So, Action's got the new clip. Look at that dude. He's looking good, looking fly, get a little volume in there. Action, looking good, man.
Yeah, thank you. New barber at Union Barber here in Ferndale. Chris hooked me up. Jordan just left town, apparently. I can't really get the full story, but he's moved on. So now we're seeing Chris. Good guy.
You ran him right out of town, didn't you, Action?
I guess so, yeah.
It was all those betting tips you were giving him.
Yeah, right. I don't think he was into sports. There's not a lot of sports fans in our town, Wegs.
Oh, man, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Ferndale's finest are more like, they're like a wine and cheese crowd. They kind of enjoy themselves a little bit.
That's right, yeah.
It's okay. You can educate them. That gives you an opportunity to, it's an untapped market. So,
how's your week been?
As I was recounting before the pod, it's been a very busy week. Tough work week, but I've gone out every night of the week. So, got a little drink and a sandwich on a Monday. Tuesday saw John Wick 4. I'm not promoting John Wick. You don't have to, when they do the checks on YouTube, it's not an official sponsor, but I'm a big John Wick guy, John Wick, and awesome movie. It's quite an experience. You've seen the movies, right?
No, I have not.
Oh man, great movies. Very violent, extremely violent. And I'm not like a violent movie guy, but I liken the John Wick movies more to. It's almost like a dance because there's so much fight choreography, and it's almost beautiful to watch at some level. Ignore all the blood splatter and all that kind of stuff. But so went to this place called the Alamo Draft House, which is new in Chicago. It's a chain out of, I'm assuming, San Antonio, where it's kind of like a Bruin View, but it's a high-end Bruin View. So good cocktails. They bring the food to your seats. They have a little tray where you can eat at your seats, and pretty sweet. And then last night I went to a new restaurant as well. So, hey, got the Final Four party on Saturday. We're just rolling, Action. I mean, no rest for the wicked, dude. I'll sleep, I guess, in 2 weeks.
Yeah, a couple more days left of the college basketball season. We've been hitting it hard lately, so it'll be nice to have a little break after the last game on Monday night.
Absolutely. And obviously, Action, you can't win the WegsPool, but it looks like you're going to get some cash. So congratulations. You had Mark in line for some money. So.
Yeah, we can talk about it in the recap, but Creighton, big disappointment. I think I would have had a March Madness sweep had Creighton won on Sunday.
No, I know. It's okay. It's okay, Action. You went on a limb. You went for it. So
true.
Let's transition. We don't have to go deep, but as you mentioned before the podcast here, a lot of green on this page. We made some good recommendations and stuck to some principles. I like Kansas State. We're on opposite sides on that one. Yeah. That was a phenomenal game last Thursday. I mean, that was an amazing game. God, I mean, the poor guy didn't get to the Final Four, but Noel was such a good player. I'm sure he was a player of the region. Mm-hmm. He had the 19 assists in this game against Michigan State in overtime to win, and then I think he had another 12 assists and 31 points in the Elite Eight game. Foreshadowing they lost to Florida Atlantic. So we like Florida Atlantic in both game against Tennessee.
Before we move on, I would like to talk about the ending of that Kansas State game because as we were driving down to Indianapolis on Thursday, shout out to my wife, Melissa, for driving so I could watch on my phone in the passenger seat.
Oh, great wife.
Ohio now has sports betting, so I could be live wagering as we pass through from Toledo over to Fort Wayne. Locked in a beautiful pick. Michigan State plus 3.5 was feeling good in crunch time. And then, of course, Marquise Noel, the unnecessary layup at the buzzer, just shattered all hopes and dreams on the Michigan State.
Bad beat there, Action. He did, get the strip and decided to go for the layup, and it was a reverse layup. Did it count? Yes, it did. Sorry, Action. 98, 98, 93. Can't win them all.
It was like my only loss on the weekend, so it's all good.
Yeah, exactly. We liked FAU against Tennessee mainly because Tennessee couldn't score. How about the dirty play by the center though?
Yeah,
Did
crazy.
you watch the replay where he was
Yeah.
just elbowed the big Russian dude in the throat? Didn't get thrown out of the game. Did they review that play? I'm like, he's
Yeah.
just gonna get flagrant? I mean, that was like a really dirty play. So they kind of got the best of it there. I'm glad they kind of won on that one.
I did
And then
see the Duke center, Kyle Filipowski, on Twitter retweeted it and said something to the effect of, well, I've been there before. So
yeah,
it sounds like the
exactly.
Tennessee center has been dirty to many opponents this year.
Yeah, I did notice that the FAU center was a little bit. I mean, the word's not floppy, but he was trying to get some calls
Definitely.
during the game, and I'm sure that that's why the guy got pissed. But hey, like Rodman used to do back in the day. I mean, get under somebody's skin, and really that guy, what's his name? It's like Slovich or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know.
Whatever, big Russian dude. He or Serbian, whatever. He had a big first half in that game and then went 0 in the second half. So FAU made some adjustments. In the Saturday game for the Final Four, another good game, obviously in Madison Square Garden. FAU was, it was toe to toe. The game was back and forth. Kansas State was up by 7. Midway through that second half. They had the momentum, that's for sure. The crowd was going crazy, but give FAU a lot of credit. They stuck to it, and they really got Johnson in foul trouble. That was the kind of big thing I noticed. Without him on the floor, they couldn't quite muster up enough with Noel. And then, FAU advances to their first Final Four ever, first tournament win, first of everything. Now first Final Four. They won 79-76, covering the one, and this game went over as well. So I know you like FAU.
Yeah, I had a nice hit on Saturday night as well with FAU in the money line, and super excited for my Indiana crew. John L. Davis, Gary guy, and then Coach Dusty Mays also from Indiana. So definitely going to be cheering for them this weekend.
So in the West, we had Arkansas against UConn. This wasn't, let's face it. I liked UConn in the game. Actually, no, I liked Arkansas in the game, but that was not a game. So Arkansas got run off the court. UConn just buried them early and often, and it wasn't even a game, but that kind of was foreshadowing for later. And then the Zags, I said that I do think the Kansas State, Michigan State was probably the best game on the weekend, but close second here, UCLA Zags. This was a really good game. The UCLA was up big at the half and got a pretty big lead, but they just kind of ran out of gas, and the Zags put the go button, started scoring, but then UCLA came back. They took the lead action. I thought I was going to at least get a push. I took UCLA +1 or -1, and then the shot from the logo. I mean, the dude. I couldn't believe he made that shot.
Yeah.
And then obviously the Zags win that one by 3 in the end. So great game.
That was an excellent game. That was an amazing shot by Strother in his hometown, no less, too.
Right, in Vegas. So, obviously on Saturday, different story. UConn, it was kind of a game in the first half. They were holding down Timmy, who we should have mentioned, had 36 points in that game against UCLA, unstoppable. Not quite the same against UConn, but more importantly, I don't know, like they were just not hitting threes or whatever. And then in the second half, oh my God, UConn just blew them out. And this is where I kind of made some money action. I did an alt total or alt line on UConn -8, which was the most I could push it to, and that was +200. And then I took that first to 10 in the second half on UConn, and also took the Zags first half total under. So I hit all those things. I tried to get the middle on the Zags, but they got blown up by almost 30 in the second half.
Yeah, nice return for you in that game indeed.
So obviously UConn looks pretty good. In the South, you had this was an interesting bracket. As you mentioned, Creighton, but first the San Diego State game. I was watching this at the new bar called Broken Barrel in Lakeview there. And San Diego State, they were playing tough against Alabama in the first half, but Alabama made a run in the second half. And so, we liked San Diego State plus a 7.5, but it looked like Alabama was going to turn the tide, figuratively. But they really didn't. They just fell in love with the three, and San Diego State, who was great against the three-point shot, just, grounded them down to nothing. I do think big in this game, they were going to cover the number, but weird situation the last minute of this game. Sears scores, gets the game within 2 points. I think it was 66-64. And then I know it probably wasn't intentional, but way over aggressive on the inbound to get a foul of 45 seconds instead of playing defense. They had all the momentum, and then the free throws, the Aztecs closed it out. So you had a good hit on the money line with the Aztecs.
Yeah, plus 210. I had plus 7.5. I had SDSU in the first half too. It was all turning up green for me in that game.
Yeah, I had the under in the first half, and it went under for the game too. So, and the nightcap on Friday, we had Creighton just let's just say the first half was competitive. Princeton played pretty well in the first half, but Creighton in the second half just kind of rolled. They won pretty easily in this one, so they covered the number. And unfortunately, that little sandwich bet I put on Princeton did not come in, but they had a good run.
Yeah, and I think I ended up betting Princeton plus 11 in this game. Had a couple free throws at the end to get to the push, and they split and ended up losing by 12. Or I think it was plus 10, and they lost by 11.
Yeah, so funny thing, Cardish, which is Ridgeway's friend, we were at the bar, and he had taken, I think he was trying to middle the game or something, but he didn't do it right. And so he ended up getting 10.5 with Creighton, so they did cover in the end, but it really looked like they weren't going to cover. It was going to fall on 10, and he was going to lose both bets.
Ouch.
So I don't know how he did that, but anyway, interesting situation. Now on Sunday, this was I did get to see all of this game. San Diego State came out and they just defended that 3-point line like crazy. They held Creighton to 2 of 17 from the 3-point arc. Still, Creighton was in the game, had a good chance. San Diego State made a bad pass, led to a layup, to tie the game late. And then obviously what everybody's talking about is the foul call here at the end. But I do think it was a foul. They probably didn't need to call it, so they probably didn't call it all day.
Yeah.
But he splits a pair, and San Diego State goes to their first Final Four, 57-56. And I did hit the first half under in this one, and I didn't end up betting San Diego State plus 2.5, but I should have.
Yeah, I also had the first half under, but Creighton in the game, even though I had so much invested in them through all my pools and whatnot, I still felt like Creighton was the side in that one. So that was a demoralizing loss. Thankfully, I was on the golf course at the time, so I didn't have the opportunity to throw things at my TV.
Good. And the last region, this was, I don't know, maybe not the most improbable. I think San Diego State's still probably more improbable when you look at what happened over the course of the weekend. But first you had Miami against Houston. We liked Houston in this game. We thought laying 7, they get a little healthier. They're playing good. I did hit the Miami first half plus the 4, which hit. But Miami they're playing at a different tempo, right? They're pushing people to their, what do they say? Styles make fights. I think that's the term.
Yeah.
And in this case, Miami dictated the style of this game, fast-paced, run and gun. Houston tried to run with them. They couldn't do it, especially not hitting threes. And the game wasn't even close in the end. They ended up winning 89-75. It was a little close in the middle, but, they kept falling for the 3. And Miami, to their credit, it wasn't a lot of 3 shots. I mean, they made some, but it was a lot of just taking the ball in a basket. And they've done this for the whole weekend, and they won outright on this one.
Yeah, I mean, just an incredible game. That was a tough loss for me to take. I had Houston in the back end of a 4-leg parlay, so.
Yeah, and I chased a little bit on the money line here, admittedly, which I got to stop doing that. Actually, that's 2 weekends in a row. So in the last game, wasn't so close. Xavier and Texas, Texas kind of did what I thought they'd do. They outclassed them. They were up by 4-point favorites. They played really well. They kind of rolled in this game. The final score was 83-71, but it was more like a 15-point game, maybe 17 more way in the second half, which I thought, hey, Texas is the team to beat in this region. They're going to go and take care of Miami on Sunday.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? I went to play volleyball. They're up by like 9 at halftime. I'm like, okay, well, -4. I'm thinking pretty good. I'll be okay on this one. Get out of volleyball. They lose 88-81. I'm like, oh, Miami must have lit it up from the 3. Oh no, they didn't. They were like 2 of 7 in the game, but they were 22 or 28 of 32 from the line in this game, and they fouled out a bunch of those Texas guys. And Texas kind of puckered up, man. It was a close game with 77 all, and they just kind of lost the ball down the stretch. And give Miami and those guards all the credit in the world to get their first Final Four. I'm repeating myself 3 times today.
Yeah, incredible turnaround in the second half. I mean, you got to give Coach Larinaga a lot of credit because they kept that team in the game and just kept going to the basket, and ultimately that led to points and free throws. And on the other side, Texas just couldn't continue scoring like they were in the first half.
And I think they fell in love with the three a little bit too.
Yeah.
They made 7 threes in the first half, which was maybe fool's gold because in the second half they just kind of went cold. Maybe they were challenging shooters better. I thought that they stopped trying to go to the basket and go inside. But in rewatching the games, I did get to rewatch the second half that night, and the game was right there in the balance. It just Miami had the guts and the balls to keep going, where Texas kind of flubbed the ball and had 2 bad turnovers and some bad shots. So I give it to Miami. Which opens us up for the Final Four action. So here we are. We're finally, it's Houston. I know you canceled your tickets. Sorry.
Yeah.
2 times, right? Once with Purdue and once with Indiana.
Yeah, that's right.
So the first game, you've got FAU, the 9 seed, not that it matters anymore, against San Diego State, the 5 seed. I'm seeing anywhere between 2 and 2.5 here, total about 132. Is that what I'm seeing right now still?
Yep.
101.5 at Rivers. So definitely a lower scoring game. This is at 6 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. Look, both these teams have never been there. None of their players have ever been there. The only person, I don't even know if any of those people, I guess technically Dutcher was there maybe with the Fab Five back in like 1992 or something.
That's a long time ago.
That doesn't count. We talked about the Aztecs' 3-point defense, which we know FAU likes to shoot the 3. I don't know, action. I look at the metrics overall, right? And I'm not trying to be jumping on the bandwagon. You've been on the bandwagon from the start. But this team is balanced for FAU. They've got bigs, they've got guards, they don't just shoot threes. I think that in the long run should beat San Diego State, but I do still like the first half under at 61.5, and I probably would stay off. Maybe I'd take the Owls in the first half, +2, +3, and then see what happens in game. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm sticking with FAU too. I bet them +2. I bet them on the money line +105. Yep. And I, like you, think that the balance that FAU has is going to be critical to going against San Diego State. I think this is a team in San Diego State that has a very similar profile to Tennessee, whom they beat last Thursday. And I think over the weekend we saw the San Diego ball pressure really affect Creighton. They had a tough time getting into their offense. But on the other side, the difference in this weekend is that FAU has 4 guys on the floor at all times that can handle the ball. Outside of the big center, Vladislav Golden, all 4 of them can bring the ball up the court, and I think that's going to be very key to them being able to break down this SDSU pressure and ultimately lead to more open shots than some of the previous Aztec foes have not been able to get.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting because, when I do my little analysis, I talk about it hasn't been perfect for the bracket, for sure, but from a betting perspective, when I look at, in Ken Palm, the Aztecs are better. They're 14 overall versus 17. Really close. But when you look at the combined offense-defense metrics, they're 53 versus 79 for the Aztecs. Now, granted, when I look against when I look at the Aztecs against Creighton, Creighton was better, obviously. But I think that the balance that they have, meaning FAU, they're not a bad defensive team. Right, they're 29th. They're pretty solid. So we'll see. I could be wrong, and we'll see what happens. But that's why I think we'll see if I go money line too, like you. It makes sense. But I'm definitely going, split the game in half again, see what happens. You got a note on Trammell, which is the guard for San Diego State.
Yeah, Darian Trammell is the player who got fouled in crunch time on Sunday. I am just fading him because I think that he has picked up some of the scoring slack due to Matt Bradley's really horrid shooting tournament.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I think that Darian Trammell's points prop is a little bit inflated here going into the Final Four. So, and I also like the game under. So I'm looking to go under Darian Trammell, 10.5 points. I think it's just fading the inflated number as well as expecting a lower scoring game.
Got it. Okay. So basically on the same side there, that's scary action. But let's go to the second game.
We'll see.
We've got Miami, the 5 seed against 4 seed UConn. This is 5.5 for UConn. The total's 149.5. Is that ticked up? 149.5, right in that range. This is at 8:49 Eastern on Saturday. Look, both these teams, these are the two hottest teams in the tournament. I mean, I know that FAU has won games, but they've kind of won close games. San Diego State has won some ugly games. These two teams are playing incredibly, and Miami, especially in their second halves. But UConn, the metrics told us this all season. I don't know why I ignored it. They told us this all season. They're the 4th or 5th best team in the country. They're playing like that now. Mm-hmm. Where the Canes have definitely closed in the metrics in the last couple of weeks, have played better and better. So, I mean, I still think UConn's a better team. I know that part of me wants to root for the underdog here, but I think UConn's a better team. I'd be willing to push it up again. Alt line is a little dicey, around 10, because I think they're going to win. They win big. But I would take the Canes in the first half. I think they're going to keep it close on the +3. I just think in the end UConn will outlast them, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, Connecticut, I think we talked about at the start of the tournament, when you just filtered the last month going into the tournament, they were playing at a top 5 clip. So they've proven that out just by destroying their opponents through the first 4 games in this tournament. And when this matchup came out, my first thought was 2 top 5 offenses. I'm going to gravitate to the over. And I did. Yes. I bet over 148.5, despite the large shooting gym, which we didn't talk about in the first game. NRG Stadium, football stadium, probably going to lead to some crappier shooting. Well, I'm not so sure that's going to be the case in this game. I like this one to go over. And as far as the side goes, I initially, driving back, was hoping to lay like 3.5 or 4 with UConn in this game, and was a little deflated to see 5.5, to be honest, because I think it's a little higher than I wanted to lay. So I looked at the money line. I'm going to bet Connecticut -240 on the money line, which Connecticut is now the favorite in the tournament. I think over the last couple of days you saw that number drift up to like -125 or -130. Well, I just did. I looked at the money lines on the 2 games, and if you anticipate that Connecticut is going to be about -240 again in the championship, if you just do a rollover, you can get about -110 or -115. So that's the option I went to go with.
Good value. So that kind of brings me to the dilemma that our buddy Dempsey, the Night Ranger, has on his, he has a ticket on Miami, right?
Yep.
It was Miami. So he has a ticket on Miami, and it was pretty good. It was like plus, was it 40 to 1? It was pretty good. It was like plus, it was $5 to win like 450. So good payout there. So he was asking the question, and I initially kind of jumped on it thinking that's right, but I'm not sure if the numbers are right. I mean, of course, you can pump it into the hedge calculator, but he was obviously he would hedge by doing the money line, like you said, -1 or 240 here in this game. And of course, if he wins, then obviously he could completely hedge his actual bet on the championship game next week, with FAU and San Diego State. But is that the right angle? And what would you say? You don't have to be perfect on the numbers, but if he's going to have that kind of payout, what would you encourage people to do for hedging, especially in the semifinal game, not the final?
Yeah. I mean, it all just depends on how much you want to get out of the ticket. If he's looking just to cover the initial bet, that would be one way to approach it. I typically like to at least get myself 20% out of what the expected value would be on the winner. So I think his initial stab at the money line of UConn for about 20% of the 450 is a good number.
Yeah, okay. Good call. That's about what I suggested. So, hey, maybe I did a little more than that. I said more, but because that's the thing. If you bet the 240, then it takes a lot to win some money back. But
and then too, Miami would still have to win the second game too. You're not necessarily a winner in that case, so you could be.
No.
Yeah, you don't want to go too heavy on that first semifinal.
Yeah, you got to save some money backwards. That's right.
Of
So,
course, I do
okay.
really I like UConn a lot in that game. I think Miami is
Yeah.
going to run into some trouble. They have certainly been able to score, but they're allowing their opponents to score a lot too. And that UConn offense has been lights out.
And they can run. And I thought that's what happened to the Zags in the first half when I was watching the game, because I hadn't seen UConn play that much. I just saw the results.
Mm-hmm.
I saw them play one game during the season. And I was kind of like, okay, they run these really good sets. They're passing the ball. I mean, Sonogo is a good passer, actually, when he
Mm-hmm.
gets double teamed. But they weren't, I wasn't sure what the play was. They were just kind of, playing a good game. Second half, they just said, screw this. We are going to take the top off this. We're going to shoot the ball at will. We're going to take it to them. And I thought that they beat the Zags at their own game by running them out of the gym. I kind of feel like that's what's going to happen here because in the first half, as you said, can UConn adjust to the big gym and make threes? I don't think they will necessarily. So early on, I think there's going to be some value on UConn. It might be a close game, might get a better money line price. Over the course of the game, I think they play 9 guys. They've got the bigs. They're going to take care of business.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. But I think
And
we're on the same side here. So UConn, FAU final.
yeah, and if Norchad Omir, Miami's like only rebounder, happens to get into any foul trouble like Timmy did last weekend, they're going to be in big trouble. I'd be looking to live bet
Oh,
Connecticut as soon as Omir goes to the bench.
right. Yeah, that happened last week. So in the final, I put -8. I don't know. Did you? We should probably look at that. What do you think the spread would be?
I heard on a podcast this morning someone projected Connecticut -4 versus FAU, which kind of had me falling out of my chair, to be honest. I figured it was going to be like the same number. Honestly, I thought 5.5, 6, and -240.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, Miami technically is lower in Ken Palm, right? They're 22.
True.
It's just that they have their offense is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. So it's a defense, but the defense has gotten way better over the course of the tournament. So
I do think that FAU's power rating is slightly higher than Miami, though. So I would
yeah,
bet that if this were the matchup, I would make the number 5.
okay. Well, that's good. That's even a better number. I'll change that here. And then the total, you think about the same, or do you think it'd be a slower pace because FAU may choose to run, but I don't think they necessarily would, right?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly wouldn't recommend that if I was Dusty May, but they might run with them. I mean, they do play average tempo, 156 ranked in pace, so I think that's probably a pretty good number. Although for championship games, you usually do see a little bit of a lower number just because there's so many stakes on the line. So I would
Right.
think it might be a little bit under that 145 you've got here.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, most of my strategies have sort of worked. Taking the dog in the first half, with the points, and then laying the favorite in the second half. It didn't work with Houston and Alabama, but and then usually that championship game, there's some tightness, so usually that first half under is a play. But
Mm-hmm.
we'll see. I want to see how these teams play in that big gym. They'll be more used to it, but there's still a lot of emotions. And UConn, even though they've been there before, not these guys, right? So and Hurley's never been there. So none of the guys. Only person who's been to Final Four is Larinaga, and he's obviously proved his worth coaching this tournament.
No doubt. Yeah. For me, I think it's UConn. I mentioned it earlier. My
Yeah,
plan is to do the money line rollover. I already bet the -240, and I'm going to be betting the money line again on Monday night.
right. So in the WegsPool, not that anybody's really listening for that, but let's just say that. Essentially, it comes down to one of the guys did pick Miami to win it all.
Saw that.
So if they do win it all, I mean, he'll finish no worse than second. But the key is that the guy who's on top picked San Diego State to make the final game. I know. Amazing.
Yeah.
He's correct. So if they advance, he's automatically the winner. Like if they're in the championship game, he doesn't matter who wins on the other side. But that other guy can pass him if Miami wins, both games, and then San Diego State loses. So that's the only real drama at the top, and that's where you can obviously finish second if you're a UConn and a FAU guy. I guess it doesn't matter on the San Diego State side, but I think you're in second now, aren't you?
Yeah. So I believe if FAU and UConn win, I'll lock up second place. Does that seem
You will.
right?
I
Based on
think
your
it's
numbers?
just over at that point. There's no
Yeah.
more points. I mean, there's one guy who picked UConn. to win it all. I feel bad because of my scoring system. You cannot come up. He only picked one Final Four team. He's nowhere close. He'll get to like 66 points, but he's below the cut line, which is 68 or so for winning, which is, trust me, dude, it's like an all-time low.
Yes. Well, I mean, it's a wild tournament, hasn't it been?
Yeah, yeah. Now you have no more teams in the player pool, right?
That is correct. I am out in the player pool, but I have a pretty commanding lead. I think it's going to be
Yeah, I know
tough
you do.
for anyone to surpass me with their single player left. I think there's 4 or 5 guys with each with one player. So
Yeah, I'm way
even in
down.
2 games, it's going to be tough.
Yeah, how far up are you, the number two?
I want to say I have like a 40 or 50 point lead.
Yeah, you're probably okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Um, I would say if the guy next to you has like a Wong or something, maybe. But other than that, it's a tough one. My guy who's on it is, is one of the like fourth guy in UConn. It's not gonna. I'm
Yeah.
like 200 points behind it. He's not gonna do it.
No. It'd be a huge game. Wilt Chamberlain-esque.
But yeah, and also your dad, Mark Roberts, big listener here. He can finish third if the same scenario works. It kind of holds true with or maybe he's fourth. I can't remember, but he's in there. He's in there. He's going to win money either way. But so congrats to you both. It's hard to do it. 160. I had to cut 2 people. 164. Still a good
Big
number.
pool.
Yeah. So what are you going to do for the games?
We'll probably just hang home on Saturday, watch them here at the Homestead, and same on Monday night.
Yes. Be at the Four Shadows, and everybody can join. All of our listeners, come on down. I got some food. I'll have enough. Yes, it'll be fun. Should be a good time. Do some strip cards down there. See if we can get it interesting, because I'm sure nobody has any,
Yeah.
any besides bets. Nobody has any juice. Nobody has any bracket stuff left for Saturday. So
Yeah. Despite the obscure teams that made the Final Four, the good thing is that odds makers still post numbers on every game, so you and I can bet them regardless of who's playing.
And I don't know if you noticed, I mean, there are more props
Oh
than the
yeah.
other games. So there's a lot more game props, player props. Like I was telling you last week, it's funny because Rivers doesn't do the first to 10 or first to 20 or first to, I think it's 10, 15, and 20 on the first half
Hmm.
of the game, but they do it for the second half. But they're doing it for the Final Four. So they are doing it now. Maybe it's just too much to figure out. I don't know. So that's kind of fun. I like those bets. We always get excited when we were in Vegas on people getting excited for that first to 15
Yeah.
bet. And then next week, one more episode, recap of the weekend, and then Masters, and then we'll take a little hiatus.
Sounds like a plan.
That's great, man. All right, well, follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter, and also Side Action Podcast on Instagram. Follow me at WegsPool on Twitter and on Instagram.
And follow me on Twitter at 31S Roberts.
All right, enjoy it, everybody.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made, as the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.